Away from matters health, several committees are this morning holding meetings with various stakeholders. And to enlighten us on this, our senior parliamentary reporter Patrick Amimo now joins us for details from our city centre studios. Patrick, good morning. What are we to expect from Parliament today?
Good morning. The first day of the week for Parliament, and it's a busy day both in the National Assembly and the Senate. This morning, various committees sitting, and in the National Assembly, we'll have that Committee on Education that will be meeting with members from the Kenya National Union of Teachers and KUPPET to try to look into that controversial subject of delocalization of teachers that's being enforced by the Teachers Service Commission. About 3,700 teachers are affected by this particular move. We've seen the two unions condemn the move because they say teachers are not consulted. Some of the teachers also, the age does not allow them to be transferred to schools that are very far from their localities. And also we've heard that some of these delocalization process has affected families where we've seen couples being separated, and this has an effect on the family setup, and some might also lead to divorce. So these two teachers unions representing teachers in the primary and secondary schools will be trying to petition the TSC to look to it that this particular delocalization policy is withdrawn and or shelved altogether to allow that public participation, because according to the unions, it's easy to move younger teachers through that particular program than those targeting at least those teachers who are approaching their retirement age, because doing so it disrupts everything that had been put in place by the teachers. That's a matter that will be before the National Assembly Committee on Education. Also, the committee in the National Assembly dealing with matters health will be meeting members of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union. The unionists have been advocating for the establishment of the Health Service Commission. When we got our 2010 constitution, the Health Service Commission was removed from the provisions of those 9 commissions that are currently recognized in the constitution. And medics have been saying that they want this particular commission to look into matters their welfare. We've seen already various doctors and nurses and clinical officers at the county level government, after following devolution of health services, we've seen most of them participate in strikes, and also that go slow because of non-payment of their allowances and also salaries. So it's a matter that they feel if they had a health service commission, it will really look into their welfare the same way the teachers matters are handled under the Teachers Service Commission. So it's something that the union, the medical practitioners and dentist union officials will be pushing before the health committee. It was a matter that last week they also had a meeting with the Minister of Health officials regarding the same matter, and the negotiations are ongoing to see how that commission can be either reintroduced into the constitution. Another committee of the National Assembly that will be meeting is that to do with labor and social welfare, and they'd invited Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i to look into the idea of giving work permits to foreigners or non-Kenyans. It's something that we saw last year. Matiang'i was very, very much against, because he expressed wonder on how we could hire a Chinese to do jobs that can be ably handled by Kenyans. Things to do like maybe with accountancy jobs, we could find Chinese had been brought in, and these particular positions would be well handled by Kenyans. So they'll be looking into these because according to Matiang'i, several foreigners have sneaked into the country and have taken over jobs that should be done by Kenyans. Yet this particular anomaly is something that Matiang'i has been addressing through the Department of Immigration to smoke out these foreigners who are denying Kenyans their daily bread and make them roam the streets without at least jobs. So that particular matter will be before the Labour and Social Services Committee. The other in the National Assembly later in the plenary session in the chambers in the afternoon, they'll be looking into altering the calendar, because the House was to start a recess last week, but then this week, but then a short recess this week, but due to that urgent matter of the Inspector General, the vetting of that Inspector General of the House, National Assembly has to review its calendar to dispense off with that particular matter before they can go for a short recess, which now they are trying to move it to April 5th. That's when they'll start their short recess and resume on the 23rd before taking their long recess on 10th May until starting at 10th May for their long recess. In the Senate also we have committees, various committees are sitting in the Senate, and that one today, that's the Senate Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, will be visiting the industrial area prison to look at the welfare of inmates in that particular holding facility. That they'll be led by the chairperson Samson Cherargei and members of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee to look into the matters affecting remandees at that industrial area. Also, the Senate Committee on the ICT. We'll be meeting the Commission on Revenue Allocation to look at matters to do with the data protection. It's a bill that is before the Senate, and looking at it, how it can be harmonized to ensure that various data are available and Kenyans access them. And in the afternoon, when the Senate sits in the plenary, they'll also be looking at matters to do with the county wards, that is equalization development bill. This that seeks to distribute, to have at least each ward to have some kitty or for development purposes. And also they'll be looking at the assumption of office of the county governor. Like this particular, we don't have this particular provision where governors, how we manage transition in case after an election and there's a new governor coming into office, how the handover process can be tackled. And this particular assumption of office of the governor bill is looking into that matter so that there is a smooth transition and handover, so that we don't do it in a haphazard manner. And maybe lastly, just to a quick reminder on the National Assembly, there will be this afternoon in the session, they'll be looking into the division of revenue bill. It is a bill that ensures that the county governments get their monies, and already there is a tussle between the Senate and the National Assembly. The Senate had introduced this particular ceiling by 20 billion shillings. The National Assembly is opposed to it, and the Budget and Appropriations Committee last week debated this particular matter, and from the mood of the House in the National Assembly, and given the sibling rivalry, this matter will go to the mediation process. So for the county governments, the division of revenue, it will take time before they can access this particular money to ensure development and other activities at the county level for this financial year.
Many